Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really powerful mindset shift, something for anyone in a leadership role. Think of it as a new roadmap for leading, but with way less pressure and a whole lot more impact. This is all based on some seriously proven executive coaching wisdom. All right, let's jump right in.
So let's just start with a question, and I bet this is going to hit home for a lot of you. Do you ever feel that pressure to have all the answers? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a team lead or the CEO, right? There's this unspoken expectation that you're the one who's supposed to know everything. You're supposed to have the map, even when you're all kind of lost in the woods. And look, that pressure, it's real, and it totally shapes how we lead, and usually not in a good way.
And when that pressure really cranks up, I bet some of these things start to feel familiar. You know that little voice in your head just screaming, figure it out, figure it out? Or that physical, just uncomfortable feeling when things are unclear. So you rush to give any answer just to make the tension go away. And that sense of relief you get after making a decision, let's be honest, is it because it was the right decision or just because the uncertainty is finally over? And this is a big one. You feel this weight, this responsibility for everyone else's clarity, even when you're feeling anything but clear yourself.
So, okay, what's the alternative? Well, the big idea we're digging into today is this really fundamental shift in how you see your role. It's all about moving from being the fixer to becoming a steward. And trust me, this isn't just playing with words. We're talking about a complete reboot of your internal operating system as a leader.
And this just lays it out so clearly, right? On one side, you've got the fixer. This person carries everything personally. If something goes wrong, it feels like a personal failure. They're constantly jumping in, solving problems that aren't even theirs to solve, all because they have this deep need to control the result. But the steward? Totally different game. They see their job completely differently. They're not there to carry the outcome on their shoulders. Nope, they're there to steward the system, the environment where good outcomes can actually happen. They don't fix everything, they create the conditions for success. They're not a puppeteer controlling the result. They're more like a gardener, allowing it to emerge.
Yeah, this quote right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. It's that shift from carrying outcomes personally to stewarding the system in which outcomes emerge. Think about that. It's about letting go of that need to be the hero who swoops in and saves the day. And instead, you embrace this much more powerful role of being, the architect, the gardener. So the big question is, how do you actually do that?
Well, it all starts on the inside. It's the internal work. Because look, before you can change how you act, you got to change how you think and feel. So this first leg of the journey is all about two key things: learning how to hold uncertainty and totally recalibrating what you think you're responsible for.
Okay, so the first goal here, it's not to get rid of uncertainty. I mean, that's impossible, right? The real goal is to get stronger, to build your capacity to hold it, and to do it calmly and visibly. Because think about it, when your team sees that you're not freaking out about the unknown, it gives them this incredible gift. It gives them the psychological safety they need to explore, to innovate, and to solve problems without being afraid.
So how do you actually build that muscle? Here are 3 really practical things you can do. First, instead of scrambling for an answer, just name what's still unclear. Say it out loud. Second, you can create what's called an ambiguity holding window. Basically, you set a timer and intentionally leave a question open for a while. And third, you learn to make provisional decisions just to keep the ball rolling.
And that brings us to this phrase. Seriously, you can start using this tomorrow. This is a working decision. It is so powerful. Why? Because it signals that you're moving forward, but without that heavy, this is final vibe that shuts down new ideas. You're essentially saying, hey, based on what we know right now, this is the plan. But we reserve the right to get smarter. It lets you be decisive and agile at the same time. It's brilliant.
Okay, now let's pivot to that second piece of the internal work, responsibility. And this next question is the key. As leaders, it's just so easy to pick up these burdens that aren't actually ours to carry, right? You got to start asking yourself constantly, what am I carrying that actually belongs to the system? Is this really my problem to solve, or does it belong to the team, to the process?
So here are 3 ways to practice putting that heavy burden down. First thing, draw a line in the sand. On one side is stuff you can actually control. On the other is stuff you can only influence, and you need to focus your energy on the influence side. Second, before you dive in to solve a problem, stop. Ask yourself, what kind of system or process could I design here so this problem solves itself next time? And third, and this might sound a little weird, but it works, at the end of the week, actually practice letting go. You can even say it out loud. I've done what I can, the rest is not mine to carry.
All right, so once you've started doing that internal work, it's time to let it shine on the outside. This next phase is all about the external work. It's about how this new steward mindset actually changes the way you show up, the way you interact with your team, especially when you're leading them through the unknown.
And the goal here is to lead with a real sense of presence, even when, and maybe especially when, the human dynamics get messy. You know those moments, you're not sure who's on board, you can't read people's reactions, you don't know who has your back. The fixer in you panics and tries to force everyone to agree. The steward? The steward stays present. The steward gets curious.
So how do you pull that off? Okay, 3 more practices for you. First, and this one is so critical, you have to treat silence as data, not as a personal attack. Second, you've got to listen on a whole different level. Don't just hear what position they're taking, listen for the hidden constraints that are shaping that position. And third, practice what's called visible curiosity. That means asking questions, even ones you think you already know the answer to. It has this amazing effect of slowing things down and building a ton of trust.
You know, I really want to pause on this one for a second because this is an absolute game changer. Silence is data, not a verdict. Just let that sink in. Think about it. You're in a meeting, you throw out a big idea, and nothing. Crickets. The fixer inside your head starts screaming, "Oh no, they hate it, I'm a failure," right? But the steward just gets curious. They think, interesting. What does this silence mean? Are people confused? Do they just need a minute to think? Are they afraid to disagree with me? All of a sudden, that scary silence isn't a verdict. It's an invitation to ask a better question.
And all of this stuff we've been talking about, it leads to this final, crucial pillar. Redefining what executive presence even means. You know, we're all taught that being decisive means being fast, but the steward mindset turns that on its head. It shows us the true presence, real leadership presence, is actually about patience. It's about inclusion. It's about creating meaning together, not just making the quickest call. Okay, so our final 3 practices really bring this all home. First, before you make a decision, you frame the decision. You say, here's what this decision is, and here's what it isn't. Then, you learn to do something called narrating the moment, and we're going to break that down in just a second. And finally, after a big decision is made, you actually take a moment for yourself to decompress, to notice your own emotional reaction to finally having closure.
Now this is your new secret weapon for leading through uncertainty. It's a simple 3-part script, and it is so powerful. You start by grounding everyone in what's real. Okay, team, here's what we know. Then you get honest and you acknowledge the gray area. And here's what we don't know yet. Just doing that builds an incredible amount of trust. And then you bring it home with direction and confidence. And here's how we're going to move forward anyway. It's like the perfect recipe: honesty, vulnerability, and leadership all mixed together.
So you do all this work. What's the payoff? What does it actually look like and feel like when you really start to make this shift? Well, the result is a completely new kind of executive presence, one that's way more authentic and, honestly, a lot more sustainable in the long run. And the best part? This isn't some vague someday kind of thing that takes years. The framework actually lays out a pretty clear 90-day path. Month 1, you just focus on that internal work we talked about, building your capacity for ambiguity. Month 2, you start practicing leading through those messy interpersonal dynamics. And then, in month 3, you bring it all together and really start to master your new presence, your pacing, and your narrative. When you see it laid out like that, this whole transformation feels, well, it feels really achievable.
And what happens is, your entire source of authority as a leader begins to change. It stops coming from pretending you have all the answers, or from needing to be the smartest person in the room. Instead, your new authority comes from something much deeper. It comes from your calm in the middle of a storm. It comes from your timing. It comes from your ability to just stay present and hold that space while meaning starts to form and the team finds its own way forward.
I want to leave you with this really profound idea. This whole journey, it's not about learning to love ambiguity. Let's be real, nobody loves feeling uncertain. The real goal is to become skilled at holding that uncomfortable feeling, but holding it on behalf of other people. It's an act of service. You're basically absorbing the pressure cooker of uncertainty so that your team has the breathing room they need to do their absolute best work. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge, a direct call to action. Take a look at your week ahead. Find all those things you feel pressured to solve right now. Instead of trying to close every single loop, what is just one thing, just one, that you can intentionally leave open this week? Just give it a little more time, a little more air to breathe. That right there, that's your first real step on the path from fixer to steward.